The year was 2157, and humanity had never felt so small. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the observatory on Luna Base, watching the massive asteroid through the telescope. It was 3 kilometers wide, made of solid rock and metal, and it was heading straight for Earth. The calculations were clear. In 47 days, it would hit the Pacific Ocean with the force of 10,000 nuclear bombs. The impact would throw so much dust and debris into the atmosphere that the sun would be blocked for years. Most life on Earth would die. Any word from the defense fleet? Elena asked her assistant, Marcus. Marcus shook his head. The nuclear missiles barely scratched it. The laser array on Mars might slow it down by a few hours, but that's all. He looked at the numbers on his screen. We have evacuation ships ready for maybe 2 million people. There are 8 billion on Earth. Elena closed her eyes. Humanity had just learned to travel between planets 50 years ago. They had built colonies on Mars and the Moon, but they were small. Most humans still lived on Earth, and now Earth was going to die. Dr. Rodriguez, Marcus said suddenly. There's something on the deep space scanners. Elena looked at the screen. 3 large objects were moving toward Earth's solar system. They were big, bigger than anything humans had ever built. And they were moving fast, faster than any human ship could travel. Are they ships? Elena asked. I think so, but I've never seen anything like them. Within hours, the news spread across the solar system. Alien ships were approaching Earth. Some people panicked, thinking the aliens were coming to finish what the asteroid started. Others hoped the aliens might help. The ships arrived in Earth orbit 2 days later. They were beautiful, made of some kind of silver metal that seemed to shine with its own light. Each ship was 5 kilometers long, shaped like a flower with flowing curves instead of straight lines. The aliens sent a message to Earth in perfect English. We are the Karani. We know of your danger. We wish to help. President Chen of the United Earth government was in an emergency meeting when the message came through. Around the table sat the leaders of every major nation on Earth, plus the governors of Mars and Luna colonies. How do we know we can trust them? Asked the Russian delegate. How do we know we can't? President Chen replied. In 45 days, Earth dies. These aliens might be our only hope. The Karani asked to meet with Earth's leaders. They said they would send 1 representative to Earth's surface. President Chen agreed to meet the alien in Geneva. The Karani shuttle landed in Lake Geneva with barely a splash. The alien who stepped out looked almost human, but taller and thinner. Its skin was pale blue, and its eyes were large and silver. It wore simple white robes that seemed to glow softly. I am Ambassador Thelnara, the alien said in a voice like wind chimes. I speak for my people. President Chen shook the alien's hand. The Karani's skin was warm and soft. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. Can you really help us? Thelnara nodded. We have technology that can stop the asteroid, but I must tell you the truth. Using this technology will cost us greatly. What do you mean? My people are old, Thelnara explained. We have traveled the stars for 10,000 years. But our time is ending. Our worlds are dying, our population shrinks each year, and our technology fails. We have 3 ships left, and each carries a planetary shield generator. These are the last 3 working shield generators in our civilization. President Chen felt his heart sink. And you would use them to save Earth? Yes, but using them this way will destroy them. The energy needed to stop your asteroid is enormous. Our shield generators will burn out and die. Without them, we cannot protect our remaining worlds. Then you would be sacrificing your own people to save ours. Thelnara was quiet for a moment. My people have made their choice. We have lived our time among the stars. You are young. Your time is just beginning. It would be wrong to let it end so soon. The meeting lasted 3 hours. Thelnara explained how the plan would work. The 3 Karani ships would position themselves between Earth and the asteroid. They would create a massive energy field that would break the asteroid into small pieces. Most of the pieces would burn up in Earth's atmosphere like shooting stars. The few that reached the surface would be too small to cause damage. It will be beautiful, Thelnara said. Your people will see lights in the sky for 3 days and nights. Then it will be over. President Chen had to ask the hard question. What happens to your people after this? We will find a quiet world, somewhere and live out our remaining years in peace. We ask for nothing in return. Nothing. Thelnara smiled, and for the first time President Chen saw how much the alien looked like a human grandmother. Perhaps you will remember that we were here. Perhaps when your people travel the stars and meet others who need help, you will remember that once, strangers helped you when you needed it most. 3 days later, the Karani ships moved into position. The whole world watched on television and through telescopes. The shield generators powered up, creating a wall of blue-white energy that stretched across space. When the asteroid hit the energy field, the sky lit up like daytime. For 3 days and nights, just as Thelnara had promised, shooting stars filled the sky. Children made wishes. Lovers held hands and watched the light show. Scientists counted the fragments and confirmed that none were large enough to hurt Earth. On the 4th day, it was over. Earth was safe. The Karani ships were dark and silent. The shield generators had burned out completely, just as Thelnara had said they would. The aliens had sacrificed their last defense to save a world full of strangers. President Chen visited the Karani flagship one last time before they left. Thelnara looked older and tired but peaceful. "How can we ever thank you?" President Chen asked. "Live," Thelnara said simply. "Grow, learn, explore the stars, make something beautiful of the life we helped you keep. Will we ever see you again? Perhaps. The galaxy is vast but not infinite. If your paths and ours cross again, we will be glad to see what you have become." As the Karani ships prepared to leave, Thelnara gave President Chen a small crystal that glowed with soft blue light. "This contains the story of what happened here," the alien explained. "The language we used, the mathematics of our shield technology, and a star map showing where we are going. Not so you can follow us, but so you remember us." The Karani ships left Earth's solar system that night. Their ion drives created a beautiful blue streak across the sky that lasted for hours. Then they were gone, heading toward the edge of known space. President Chen kept the crystal in a place of honor in her office. When reporters asked about it, she always told the same story. 200 years from now, she would say, "When humans travel the stars, I hope we remember what the Karani taught us. I hope we remember that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is help a stranger who needs it." The crystal was passed from president to president for 2 centuries. Each one was told the story of the day aliens saved Earth and asked for nothing in return except to be remembered. They were remembered. And one day, that memory would change the galaxy forever. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Endeavour, looking at the star map with growing concern. Her ship was one of humanity's newest exploration vessels, equipped with the latest jump drives and scanning technology. They had been mapping the Outer Rim territories for 6 months, charting new systems and looking for habitable worlds. "Captain," called Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station, "I'm picking up something strange in the Sigma-7 system. There are structures on the 4th planet but no energy signatures." Sarah walked over to look at the data. Torres was right. The sensors showed what looked like cities on the planet's surface, but there was no power, no communications, no signs of active technology. "Could be ruins," suggested Commander Park, her first officer. "We found plenty of dead civilizations out here." "Maybe," Sarah said, "but let's take a closer look. Set course for Sigma-7. 3 hours later, the Endeavour dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sigma-7 system. What they found made Sarah's heart sink. The system's star was dim and red, much cooler than it should have been for a star of its type. The planets were cold and dark. "The star is dying," reported Dr. Kim from the science station. "It's lost about 60% of its energy output. Any life in this system would be freezing." "But there are still structures on the 4th planet," Torres said. "And Captain, I'm picking up very faint life signs, maybe a few thousand individuals." Sarah made her decision quickly. "Take us in, full scan of the planet, and prep the shuttle bay. We might need to do a rescue mission." The planet looked dead from orbit. The oceans were mostly frozen and the continents were covered in snow and ice. But the sensors showed that the cities were still there, built into mountainsides and underground caverns where the inhabitants could stay warm. "Captain," Dr. Kim said quietly, I recognize the architecture style. These buildings, they look like the ones in the old records from Earth. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold planet below. What records? The ones from 2157, when the asteroid was going to hit Earth. The aliens who saved us. I think this might be them. Sarah stared at the planet on the view screen. Every human child learned about the Karani in school. They were the aliens who had sacrificed their own civilization to save Earth from the asteroid. After they left Earth's system, no one had ever seen them again. Are you sure? Sarah asked. Dr. Kim pulled up images from the Earth archives and compared them to the structures below. The match was perfect. The same flowing curves, the same silver metal that seemed to glow even in the cold. It's them, Dr. Kim confirmed. These are the Karani. Sarah's hands shook slightly as she activated the communication system. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Endeavour. If anyone can hear this message, please respond. We are humans from Earth, and we want to help. For several minutes, there was only silence. Then a weak signal came through the speakers. The voice was old and tired, but it spoke perfect English. Human ship. This is Elder Veltar of the Karani Remnant. We remember your people. Elder Veltar, we're coming down to meet you. Our records show that your people once helped us, now we want to help you. There was a long pause. You remember us? We never forgot, Sarah said. Every human child learns about what you did for Earth. When Sarah and her landing party reached the Karani settlement, they found a community struggling to survive. The few thousand remaining Karani lived in heated caves, growing what food they could under artificial lights. They had managed to keep their basic technology working, but just barely. Elder Veltar met them at the entrance to the main settlement. He was ancient even by Karani standards, his blue skin pale and wrinkled, his silver eyes dim with age. But he stood straight and proud as he greeted the humans. Welcome to Karanioth, our last world, he said. I am sorry we cannot offer you better hospitality. Elder Veltar, Sarah said, we're here to help. What do you need? The old alien looked. Surprise. Help? But we are few and you are many. What could we possibly offer you in return? You already gave us everything, Sarah replied. 200 years ago, your people saved our entire world. We've never forgotten that debt. Veltar's eyes widened. You still remember the asteroid? Every year on Memorial Day, every human stops what they're doing at exactly 3:47 p.m. Greenwich time. That was the moment your shield generators activated to save Earth. We call it the moment of gratitude. Tears ran down the old Karani's face. My grandfather was Ambassador Thelnara. He was the one who spoke with your leaders. He told me about your President Chen, how she promised that humans would remember us. She kept that promise, Sarah said. And now we're going to keep another promise. We're going to help you the way you helped us. Sarah's team spent 3 days documenting everything they could about the Karani situation. The star was dying because of a natural phenomenon that happened to some stars as they aged. The Karani had no technology powerful enough to fix it. They were slowly freezing to death on a world that had once been warm and green. How long do you have? Sarah asked Veltar during one of their meetings. Perhaps 10 years, the elder replied. Maybe 15 if we are very careful with our resources. That's not acceptable, Sarah said firmly. She activated her communication system and sent an emergency message to Earth Command. This is Captain Sarah Chen aboard the UES Endeavour. I am transmitting full data on the Karani situation. Recommend immediate deployment of all available resources for humanitarian rescue mission. The Karani are the species that saved Earth in 2157. They are dying and we have the power to save them. Request permission to begin preliminary assistance operations immediately. The response from Earth came back within 6 hours. Sarah had expected approval for a rescue mission. What she got was much more. Captain Chen, the message from Admiral Rodriguez began. Your discovery has been classified at the highest level and transmitted directly to the President and the Global Council. You are ordered to provide any and all assistance to the Karani immediately. Full fleet deployment has been authorized. Every available ship, every resource we have is being redirected to your location. We are coming in force. Sarah stared at the message in amazement. Every available ship? Captain, called Torres from the communication station. I'm receiving updates from Earth Command. They're mobilizing everyone. Military fleets, colony ships, research vessels, even the deep space mining platforms. It looks like they're sending the entire space fleet. All of it? Commander Park asked. That will leave Earth's solar system almost undefended. Apparently the Global Council doesn't care, Sarah said. They want every ship we have sent here. Sarah walked to the observation deck and looked out at the dying star. In a few days, hundreds of human ships would arrive in this forgotten system. They would bring technology the galaxy had never seen, resources that most civilizations could only dream of, and the full might of humanity's space-based civilization. She thought about her great-grandmother, who had been alive during the asteroid crisis. She had always said that humans never forgot a kindness no matter how long ago it happened. Elder Veltar, Sarah said into her communicator, I need you to prepare your people for something they've probably never seen before. What is that, Captain Chen? They're about to learn what happens when humans repay a debt. Above the planet, more ships began dropping out of hyperspace. First dozens, then hundreds. The human fleet was arriving, and they were coming in force. The galaxy was about to see something that would change everything. What happened when humanity decided to save someone who had once saved them? In the cold caves of Karaniath, an old alien looked up at the stars and whispered a prayer of gratitude. His grandfather had been right. Sometimes kindness given freely came back when you needed it most. Admiral Keiko Tanaka stood in the command center of the UES Titan, humanity's largest dreadnought, watching the tactical display with growing amazement. In the 3 days since Captain Chen's discovery of the Karani, the human response had been unlike anything in the galaxy's recorded history. Status report, she ordered. Commander Williams pulled up the fleet manifest. We have 847 ships in the Sigma-7 system now, Admiral. That includes 12 dreadnoughts, 34 carriers, 156 destroyers, and 89 research vessels. The colony ships are still arriving. What about Earth's defenses? Down to minimal levels, ma'am. We've pulled ships from every sector. The Mars defense grid is operating with skeleton crews, and the Jupiter mining stations have been completely abandoned. Admiral Tanaka nodded. It was an incredible risk. If any of humanity's enemies decided to attack now, Earth would be almost defenseless. But the orders from the Global Council had been clear. Save the Karani at any cost. Admiral, called Lieutenant Hayes from the communications station. We're receiving priority transmissions from across human space. It's not just the military. Civilian ships are coming too. Show me. The tactical display changed to show ship movements throughout human territory. Tanaka watched in amazement as thousands of civilian vessels changed course and headed toward Karani space. Colony transports that had been heading to new worlds turned around. Merchant ships abandoned their trade routes. Even luxury cruise liners were making their way toward the dying star system. How many civilians? Tanaka asked. At least 3,000 ships, Admiral. Maybe more. They're not responding to our recall orders. Tanaka understood why. The story of the Karani was part of human culture. Every child grew up learning about the aliens who had sacrificed themselves to save Earth. Now that those same aliens needed help, no human was going to stay home. Let them come, Tanaka decided. We'll need every ship we can get. On the bridge of the merchant vessel New Tokyo, Captain Maria Santos was having the same conversation with her crew that was happening on ships throughout human space. Maria were carrying medical supplies to the Centauri colonies. Her first officer protested. People are counting on us. The Centauri colonies can wait, Maria replied. The Karani can't. Those aliens saved every human alive, including our grandparents. Now it's our turn. But our cargo will be more useful in Karani space. Medical supplies, food, water, construction materials, they need everything we have. Similar conversations were happening on thousands of ships. Humanity was mobilizing not because they were ordered to, but because they wanted to. The debt, too. The Karani was personal for every human alive. At the Zephyrian Empire's intelligence headquarters, Director Vashati studied the reports coming in from across human space with growing alarm. They're moving everything, reported his chief analyst. Every military asset, every colony ship, every research vessel. It's the largest fleet movement in galactic history. But why? Director Vashati asked. What could be worth risking their entire civilization for? The Sigma-7 system has nothing valuable. No rare minerals, no strategic importance. Our agents can't determine their objectives, sir. All human communications in the area are heavily encrypted. But the fleet composition suggests either a massive military operation or what? A rescue mission, sir. They're bringing terraforming equipment, medical ships, construction vessels. It looks like they're trying to save something. Director Vashiti stood and walked to the star map on his wall. The Sigma-7 system was marked in red, surrounded by hundreds of blue dots representing human ships. Send a message to the High Command, he ordered. The humans are up to something big. We need to mobilize our own fleets. If this is some kind of trap, we won't be caught unprepared. Similar scenes were playing out across the galaxy. The Crystalline Confederation began moving their ships toward the human border. The Hive Collective started recalling their exploration fleets. Even the peaceful tree singers of Altair began preparing their defensive networks. Everyone assumed the humans were planning something aggressive. No species in galactic history had ever mobilized their entire space force for a humanitarian mission. It simply wasn't done. Dr. Elizabeth Harper stood in the main laboratory aboard the UES Newton, humanity's largest research vessel, studying the data from the Karani star with her team of the best scientists in human space. Can it be done? Asked Dr. Petrov, the team's astrophysicist. Theoretically, Elizabeth replied. We'd need to inject massive amounts of hydrogen into the star's core, while simultaneously jump-starting the fusion reaction with controlled antimatter explosions. It's never been tried before. Because it's impossible, Dr. Petrov said. No, because no one has ever needed to do it before, Elizabeth corrected. The Karani need their star to live, so we're going to fix their star. Dr. Kim, who had transferred from Captain Chen's ship, pulled up the technical specifications. We'd need to manufacture specialized equipment, fusion injectors, containment fields, antimatter catalysts. The energy requirements alone would drain half our fleet. Then we'll drain half our fleet, Elizabeth said simply. The Karani saved 8 billion humans. We can spend some energy to save a few thousand Karani. The research teams worked around the clock, designing technology that existed only in theory. Fusion injectors the size of buildings. Antimatter containment systems that could hold enough explosive power to destroy planets. Hydrogen collectors that could strip gas giants down to their cores. Meanwhile, the human fleet continued to grow. Ships arrived from every corner of human space, until the Sigma-7 system looked like the largest military gathering in galactic history. Elder Veltar stood in the observation chamber of the human command ship, looking out at the massive fleet that had assembled to help his people. Thousands of ships filled the space around his dying world, their lights creating artificial constellations in the dark. I do not understand, he said to Admiral Tanaka. Your people have put your entire civilization at risk to come here. Why? Because you saved us once. Tanaka replied. Every human alive owes their life to what your people did 200 years ago. But we are few, and you are many. We are old and dying. You are young and strong. It makes no mathematical sense. Tanaka smiled. Elder Veltar, humans don't always do things that make mathematical sense. Sometimes we do things because they're right. The old Karani was quiet for a long time. Your people are not what the galaxy thinks they are. What does the galaxy think we are? Aggressive, warlike, interested only in expansion and conquest. And what do you think we are? Veltar looked out at the fleet of ships that had come to save his people. I think you are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Tanaka raised an eyebrow. Dangerous? Yes. Because you remember kindness. Because you repay debts. Because when you care about something, you will move stars to protect it. The old alien turned to look at her. Other species fear your weapons, Admiral Tanaka. They should fear your loyalty instead. 3 days later, the first phase of the operation began. Human ships moved into position around the dying star, their specialized equipment ready to attempt something that had never been done before. They were going to bring a star back to life, And across the galaxy, other species watched and wondered what kind of people would risk everything to help someone who had helped them long ago. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers, it was their memory. Dr. Elizabeth Harper watched the countdown timer on her screen with growing tension. In 30 seconds, humanity would attempt something no species in galactic history had ever tried, bringing a dying star back to life. "All stations report ready," announced Commander Williams from the Fleet Coordination Center. Around the Karani star, 300 human ships hung in perfect formation. Massive fusion injectors, each the size of a city block, pointed toward the star's surface. Antimatter, containment vessels held enough explosive power to crack planets. Hydrogen collectors had spent days stripping the system's gas giants, gathering the fuel needed for stellar resurrection. "Dr. Harper," Admiral Tanaka's voice came over the comm. "You're cleared to begin the operation." Elizabeth took a deep breath. "Beginning stellar injection sequence. All ships commence hydrogen bombardment." The fusion injectors came to life. Streams of pure hydrogen, compressed to incredible density, shot toward the dying star. The beams were invisible in space, but their effects were immediate. The star's surface began to brighten as fresh fuel reached its core. "Hydrogen levels rising," reported Dr. Petrov. "Core temperature increasing, but it's not enough. The fusion reaction is still too weak." "Phase 2, Elizabeth ordered. "Antimatter ignition." This was the dangerous part. Controlled antimatter. Explosions deep inside the star would jumpstart the fusion reaction. Too little, and nothing would happen. Too much, and they could destroy the star completely. "Antimatter torpedoes away," called the weapons officer aboard the UES Prometheus. "Impact in 15 seconds. Elizabeth watched her instruments as the antimatter charges detonated inside the star. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the star began to pulse with new light. "It's working," Dr. Kim shouted. "Fusion reaction is strengthening. Energy output is increasing." But something was wrong. The star's surface was becoming unstable. Massive solar flares began erupting, shooting deadly radiation in all directions. "All ships, emergency withdrawal," Admiral Tanaka ordered. "Get clear of the radiation zone." The human fleet pulled back as the star convulsed. For 6 hours it threw off massive amounts of energy and matter. The radiation levels were so high that any ship caught in the flares would be destroyed instantly. Elder Veltar stood in the command center with the human officers, watching his star fight for life. "Is this normal?" he asked. "We don't know," Elizabeth admitted. "No one has ever done this before. Will it survive? I hope so. If it doesn't stabilize soon, the star could go nova. That would destroy your entire system." The old Karani was quiet for a moment. "You risked destroying everything to try to save us?" "Yes," Elizabeth said simply. "Even though you knew it might fail? The alternative was letting you die slowly. We couldn't accept that." As the hours passed, the star gradually began to calm down. The solar flares became smaller and less frequent. The radiation levels dropped to safe levels, and most importantly, the star's energy output continued to increase. "It's stabilizing," Dr. Petrov announced. "Energy output is now at 70% of normal levels and still rising." "How long until it reaches full strength?" Admiral Tanaka asked. "At this rate, maybe 6 months. The star is essentially rebuilding itself from the inside out." But the humans weren't finished. As the star stabilized, the second phase of the operation began. Colony ships moved toward the planets in the Karani system, carrying terraforming equipment that had been designed for human worlds. Captain Rodriguez of the UES Genesis watched as his ship approached Karanioth, the frozen world where the last of the Karani lived. His holds were full of atmospheric processors, thermal generators, and biological seeding equipment. "Beginning atmospheric restoration," he reported to the fleet. "Deploying thermal generators across the southern continent." The thermal generators were fusion reactors designed to warm entire continents. Within days of activation, they began melting the ice and snow that had covered Karanioth for decades. Liquid water flowed again on a world that had been frozen, solid. "Temperature rising steadily," reported the environmental team. "We should have breathable atmosphere restored in 4 weeks." But the humans didn't stop there. Other ships moved to the remaining planets in the system, transforming worlds that had been cold and dead into garden paradises. Ocean planets were restocked with earthfish. Jungle worlds received new forests. Desert planets became green with human crops. The Karani watched in amazement as their solar system came back to life. In a matter of weeks, the humans had accomplished what would have taken most species centuries. "Why are you doing so much?" Elder Veltar asked Admiral Tanaka during one of their daily meetings. "You have already saved our star. That was enough." "No, it wasn't," Tanaka replied. "Your people sacrificed everything to save Earth. We're going to make sure you never have to sacrifice anything again." The Admiral pulled up a holographic display showing the transformed Karani system. "When we're finished, you'll have 7 habitable worlds instead of 1. Your population can grow again, you can rebuild your civilization. But the cost to your people is irrelevant. We're not just paying back a debt, Elder Veltar. We're making an investment in friendship that will last forever." Word of humanity's actions spread across the galaxy through diplomatic channels and intelligence networks. Other species watched the reports with growing amazement and fear. In the Zephyrian Empire's war room, High Commander Zektar studied the latest intelligence reports with his senior officers. "They brought a star back to life," reported his chief scientist. "A dying star. They restarted its fusion reaction and stabilized it. The energy requirements alone should have bankrupted their entire civilization." "What about their military status?" Zektar asked. "They've committed everything to this operation. Every major warship, every research vessel, every colony transport. Their home systems are practically defenseless." High Commander Zektar leaned back in his chair. For years, the Zephyrian Empire had been building up forces for a war with humanity. They had assumed humans were just another aggressive species that could be defeated through superior numbers and tactics. "Cancel the invasion plans," he ordered quietly. "Sir, cancel them. Any species that will risk their entire civilization to help a few thousand dying aliens is not a species we want to fight. If we attack them, they will respond with the same loyalty they showed the Karani. We could win a war against their military. We cannot win a war against their devotion." Similar decisions were being made across the galaxy. The Crystalline Confederation recalled their battle fleets. The Hive Collective began preparing diplomatic gifts instead of weapons. Even the warlike Saurian clans decided that humans might be better as allies than enemies. 3 months after the operation began, Elder Veltar stood on the observation deck of his people's new orbital station, looking down at Karanioth. The Bur planet was green and blue again, its oceans unfrozen, its continents covered with new forests and cities. Karani children played in gardens that had been frozen wasteland just months before. "The human fleet is preparing to leave," Admiral Tanaka informed him. "Our job here is finished." "Finished?" Veltar asked. "But you have done so much more than save us. You have given us a future. That was always the plan. Your people gave humanity a future 200 years ago. Now we've returned the favor. What can we do to repay this kindness?" Admiral Tanaka smiled. "Live, grow, build something beautiful with the life we helped you keep. And maybe someday when you meet another species that needs help, remember that kindness given freely is never wasted." As the human fleet prepared to leave Karani space, Elder Veltar sent one final message to Earth. "People of Earth, you have shown the galaxy what true strength looks like. Not the strength to destroy, but the strength to create. Not the power to conquer, but the power to save. We will remember this gift for all the generations of our people yet to come, and when the day comes that others need help, we will remember the lesson you taught us, that sometimes the greatest victory is helping someone else survive." The last human ship jumped to hyperspace 6 hours later, leaving behind a reborn star system and a species that would never forget what humanity had done for them. But across the galaxy, other species were also learning a lesson. They were learning that humans didn't just remember their enemies, they remembered their friends too, and that made them the most dangerous allies and the most terrifying enemies the galaxy had ever seen. The Galactic Council chamber on Nexus Prime had never seen anything like it. Representatives from over 200 species filled the massive amphitheater, all of them wanting to discuss the same topic: what humanity had done in the Karani system. Elder Veltar stood at the center of the chamber, his pale blue skin seeming to glow under the bright lights. He was the first Karani to address the Galactic Council in over 300 years. Most species had assumed his people were extinct. Honored representatives, Beltar began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. I come before you today to tell you a story. A story about debt, memory, and the true nature of power. High Counselor Thex of the Zephyrian Empire leaned forward in his seat. For months, his intelligence services had been trying to understand why humans had risked everything for a dying alien species. The official explanation made no sense to most galactic civilizations. 200 years ago, Beltar continued, my people were dying. Our last 3 ships carried the final working shield generators in our civilization. We could have used them to protect our remaining worlds and lived a few more centuries in slow decline. The chamber was completely silent. Every representative was recording this speech. Instead, we chose to use those generators to save a young species called humanity from an asteroid impact. We gave up our last defenses to save a world full of strangers. We asked for nothing in return except to be remembered. Ambassador Kreeth of the Hive Collective made a buzzing sound of confusion. Forgive me, Elder, but this makes no sense. Your people sacrificed their future for aliens they had never met? We did. And do you know what happened next? The humans forgot about you, suggested Trade Minister Vex of the Corporate Worlds. That is what young species do. They take help, and then ignore those who gave it. Veltar's silver eyes seemed to shine with amusement. No, Minister Vex. They remembered. For 200 years, every human child learned our story. Every year, at the exact moment our shields activated to save Earth, every human in their civilization stopped what they were doing to observe the moment of gratitude. But that was just ceremony, interrupted General Krex of the Saurian clans. Meaningless ritual. Was it? Veltar asked. 3 months ago, a human exploration ship found my people dying on a frozen world orbiting a burned-out star. We were the last few thousand Karani in the galaxy, waiting to freeze to death in darkness. He activated a holographic projector, showing images from the recent rescue operation. Within days of discovering us, the humans mobilized their entire spacefaring civilization. Every warship, every colony vessel, every research platform, every civilian transport that could make the journey. They abandoned defensive positions, left their colonies unguarded, and risked their entire civilization to save us. The images showed the massive human fleet surrounding the Karani star. Representatives throughout the chamber made sounds of amazement, in dozens of different languages. They brought our star back to life, Veltar continued. They restarted fusion reactions that had been dying for decades. They terraformed our worlds, gave us new technology, and restored our civilization. The energy cost alone should have bankrupted them. High Counselor Thex finally spoke. Elder Veltar, my people have been studying the humans for decades. We know them as an aggressive, expansionist species. What you described does not match their profile. Doesn't it? Veltar asked. You see aggression where I see determination. You see expansion where I see growth. You see a dangerous military force where I see a species that will sacrifice everything to honor a debt of gratitude. The hologram changed to show the restored Karani system. Green worlds orbited a bright, healthy star. Cities sparkled on the surface of planets that had been frozen waste just months before. The humans didn't just save us, Veltar said. They gave us a future. They turned one dying world into 7 thriving ones. They increased our population capacity by 1,000-fold. They shared medical technology that extended our lifespans by centuries. But why? Asked Ambassador Silthara of the Crystalline Confederation. What did they gain? Nothing, Veltar replied. They asked for nothing. No trade agreements, no military alliances, no mining rights, no colonies. When their work was finished, they left. Just like my people did 200 years ago. The chamber erupted in confused chatter. The concept of a major power doing something with no immediate benefit was almost incomprehensible to most galactic civilizations. General Krex of the Saurian clan stood up. This proves nothing. One rescue mission does not change the fact that humans are dangerous. You are absolutely right, General, Veltar said, and his words silenced the chamber instantly. Humans are the most dangerous species in this galaxy. Then you agree with us, Thex said. I do. but not for the reasons you think. Veltar's expression became serious. You fear their weapons, their ships, their military technology. You should fear something else entirely. What? Their memory, their loyalty, their absolute refusal to abandon those who have shown them kindness. The elder walked closer to the representatives' seats. General Krex, how many species would your clans risk extinction to save? Krex was quiet. Trade Minister Vex, how much profit would you sacrifice to honor a debt from 2 centuries ago? Vex said nothing. High Counselor Thex, would the Zephyrian Empire mobilize its entire fleet to rescue a dying civilization that once helped you? Thex shook his head slowly. None of you would, Veltar continued. None of your species would risk everything for strangers, but humans will, and that makes them more dangerous than any weapon. He returned to the center of the chamber. You have been preparing for war with humanity, because you see them as aggressive conquerors. You are making a terrible mistake. How so? Asked Admiral Vextra of the Void Swimmers. Because you are thinking like conquerors yourselves. You assume humans want what you want: territory, resources, dominance. But what if they don't? What do they want then? Thex demanded. What they have always wanted: to explore, to learn, to help those who need it, to remember those who helped them. Veltar's voice carried throughout the silent chamber. And to protect, with absolute determination, those they consider friends. The implications hit the assembled representatives like a shockwave. If you make war on humanity, Veltar continued, you will not be fighting a normal conquest war. You will be fighting a species that measures victory not by territory gained but by friends protected, a species that will sacrifice their own safety to save strangers, a species that remembers every kindness and repays it exponentially. Ambassador Kreeth made another buzzing sound. Are you saying humans cannot be defeated? I am saying that defeating them might not be possible, and even if it were, it would cost you everything you have. Because humans don't fight for themselves alone. They fight for everyone who has ever helped them, everyone they have ever protected, everyone they consider family. The elder paused, letting that sink in. How many species has humanity helped in the last century? How many colonies have they defended? How many trade routes have they secured? How many scientific discoveries have they shared freely? Every one of those species would fight alongside them. Not because of treaties or contracts, but because humans earned their loyalty the same way they earned ours, by giving freely, expecting nothing in return. Admiral Vextra said quietly. Exactly. And now you know why I said humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because they are strong, but because they make everyone around them want to be strong too. Not because they are aggressive, but because they inspire loyalty that runs deeper than fear. High Counselor Thex stood up slowly. Elder Veltar, what would you advise the Council to do about humanity? The same thing my people did 200 years ago. Show them kindness. Help them when they need it. Treat them as friends rather than enemies. Because I promise you this, if you do, they will remember it forever. And if you don't, if we don't, then you will learn what happens to those who threaten the people humans care about. And I do not think that is a lesson any of us want to learn. The session ended with the chamber in stunned silence. Within hours, every major power in the galaxy was recalling their war fleets and drafting diplomatic overtures to humanity. 3 days later, Elder Veltar received a message from Earth. It was from President Sarah Chen, the great-great-granddaughter of the president who had first met the Karani ambassador 2 centuries ago. Elder Veltar, the message read, thank you for your speech. To the Galactic Council. We never intended to frighten anyone, we just wanted to help an old friend. But if your words keep the peace and save lives, then perhaps that's another debt we owe to the Karani. Thank you for teaching the galaxy that sometimes the strongest weapon is simply being willing to help. Elder Veltar smiled as he composed his reply. President Chen, your people have already taught the galaxy the most important lesson of all. That true power isn't the ability to destroy your enemies. It's the ability to turn them into friends. My people learned that lesson from you, and now the galaxy is learning it too. He sent the message and looked out at the stars, where human ships continued their explorations, making new friends and remembering old ones. The galaxy would never be the same.